161st Street, episode 165. We took a little bit of a week break because the Yankees pissed us the fuck off. Naturally, as most of you also felt the same way about this Yankees team. They did win tonight, but, you know, that might be a dollar short and a day late because, you know, we dug ourselves into a hole. Let's see if we can get out of it right now. What are we, half game out?
Half game above the Blue Jays.
No, half game behind the Blue Jays.
Sorry, behind the Blue Jays.
We're 1.5 before this, so we're half game out of the second wild card. Red Sox had an off day today. Now we have to pay attention to the Oakland Athletics again. Now we let them back in this whole race.
Games.
They're 1.5 games back behind us if they lose tonight, because that would be a full game. Regardless, we took a week off, as I'm sure most of you guys took a week and enjoyed your nice September weekend as the summer is coming to a close. I went to LBI. Chandler is in, where, Utah? So Chandler's in Utah. Today you just got Luke and Damon, like the good old days.
OGs.
The OGs, 165 episodes ago, these two. We were getting it going. So Murph is also pouring beers again. So just what a life that he lives.
We gotta do a podcast as brewery one day.
We will. That's a promise. Maybe 261 will be from Murph's brewery. But yeah, the Yankees are opening up a series, have opened up a series. You guys have already watched the game. We already watched the game. We're recording after Monday night's game against the Rangers. They narrowly are able to beat the Rangers. I mean, this is just a Rangers team that has 95 wins, 95 losses now, excuse me, and is the third most losses in the entire MLB. They have a negative 176 run differential, 177 after tonight because we won by 1. That's quick math for you. I mean, I just don't understand how this team can be, like, we don't deserve this roller coaster ride that we've been on this entire year. And I've come to the point where, like, I'm borderline ranting right now, and I feel like I don't even care anymore because I'm just like, and here's the thing. This is how I feel because I'm an Eagles fan too. And I always say this to you as well about the Eagles, is that I want to be mentally checked out. The last 2 years, at least, they did win the Super Bowl in 2017. But the last 2 years, I would want to be mentally checked out by the midway point because the team sucks. Like, especially last year when the NFC East was so bad. But because it's so bad, I can't just give up on the season because they keep reeling me back in. That's kind of the case here, but the difference is everybody's just above 500 in the AL East. So
yeah.
Like, I can't give up. My mind tells me to give up because this team has just been so exhausting to watch, but I can't give up because we're half game back now. So, like, everything tells me to give up, but also to the people, before we dive into today's topics, the people that say, like, good, we should lose, we should, like, not make the playoffs and all that, I don't get you because it's September now. We made it all the way to this point just to not make the playoffs. It's not even like you get the benefit of you do get an earlier draft pick, but the MLB draft doesn't fucking matter like that, like the NFL draft does. Like, at this point, if it were the NFL season coming down to it, I would be like, okay, sure. Like, this team is not going to win a World Series. Get a better draft position. That's how I was with the Eagles, and the Eagles ended up getting Devonta Smith. I know they traded up, but my whole point before you get into it is that would be how I would feel if it was the NFL season. Yes, because the difference in picks in the NFL draft matter actually that much more. Top 10 pick versus a top 15 pick is a big difference. In this case, the MLB draft is a crapshoot. If you don't have the top 1, 2, 3 picks, and even that isn't a sure thing either. So, I mean, like, you look at right now. Kumar Rocker was like a top 10 pick, and he's like not even on the Mets, I don't think. So that's just like, to the people who don't want to make the playoffs, that doesn't make sense to me. And if you're saying that because you think it's going to incite some kind of change in the Yankees organization, which to a regular organization it may, to this, so you really think that there's going to be some fucking change if we miss the playoffs? I don't.
Well, I think that like I was saying it earlier, like, I don't think it really matters in terms of draft picks at all. It's really just in terms of, like, if we don't make the playoffs, then this is just a big telltale to the front office that the way the team is built is not built to be a playoff team. A World Series team. And the people that we had, the way we built it with all these home run hitters and like the core the core team that we have right now is not capable of winning a World Series, and that's what really the not making the playoffs would really tell the front office. And I get it.
I don't think that. I think they would. I think they still believe they built a good team.
Yeah, I know. I get it. But like,
and it shows that they think that too, because they doubled down and got two more. Well, they got one lefty bat that was a contact hitter, which is Rizzo, who hasn't been hitting the most contact. But like they double down and get Gallo first, and like that proves to you that you're just not. You do believe that you are building something that's worthwhile. So I don't.
Yeah, I think that it's. I think that we're even talking about this just because the last couple series, like. I saw something the other day. I was like, we're fighting for our lives to make a playoff spot, and then we lose 11-3 and 11-1 on back-to-back days against the Cleveland Indians, which are not a playoff team.
You let up 22 runs
like
to
that,
a team that has just recently changed their name to the fucking Guardians.
Like that.
They're
that
nameless.
in itself is just like how as fans can we like just get up and care about the team the next day after those two horrific outings. And that's really when we were just like, I don't even know if we can record right now because it's terrible. There's nothing really to say right now. There's no words to describe what just happened.
Well, we didn't record after the Garrett Cole.
But this was leading up to that. This was
against
leading up
the
to
Orioles, which, like, here's the thing: you win the series against the Orioles. It's the Orioles. Number one, you should sweep that series. You should sweep this series against the Rangers as well. But like, you still win the series. You should be relatively happy about it. I know you shouldn't be because it's the Orioles, but when you win a series, you should be happy, but you dug yourself in such a hole now that you just can't afford that. You can't, like, all of the other teams are going to keep winning, and not to mention, we have a very hard strength of schedule for the rest of the way out. I think it's one of the hardest of all of the playoff contenders.
Blue Jays, Rays, and Red Sox.
Because we have to go directly through the Blue Jays, Rays, and Red Sox. Who knows if the Rays will be playing their starters by the end? They may have it all wrapped up. I don't even think they will be playing for seeding at that point. I don't know. I do think that they would spite us and try to knock us out of the playoffs and be spoiler. I still believe that, but
but like just going back a little bit, like I like playing the teams like the Indians and the Orioles and losing to them. I think it's just been a consistent thing throughout the entire season of us playing down to their level and just not being able to win these games. I mean,
I barely think it's playing down at this point. I think the team's just not good.
Do you want to hear a funny stat?
It's probably going to hurt me.
The Orioles, 16% of the Orioles wins this year have been against the Yankees.
I did see the same stat that I had like written things down for the Thursday or the Friday episode last week that we just called because we just couldn't do it. I honestly, it's funny that I was texting in our group chat about recording on Thursday because we were all ready to record. And then the Yankees end up losing the game, and I put my pouty face on, and then I thought to myself, I would have a lot more fun if I just rented Spider-Man 2. I had previously just watched Spider-Man 1 right before that. I just finished it a minute before, and I was like, wow, it'd be a great time if I just made a decision here and just watched that instead of recording and talking about this team. Because here's the thing. And that's not giving up on the team or anything. And even if it was, I wouldn't care because we have every right to give up on this team. They gave up on themselves. But, like, it's just not worth talking about. There was nothing new to talk about at that point. So here we are talking about the same stuff. Luckily, tonight we did get a win, and we are a half game back. And that's, I know, luckily or unluckily that we have to still care about this team because at the end of the day, when the playoffs start and we're not in it, if that's the case, it's going to suck, especially like I said at the top of the show, when you get no benefit of missing the playoffs, especially like, let's say it was football. If you narrowly miss the playoffs, your difference in draft pick is not a big difference. But regardless, like there is no benefit to missing the playoffs. And if you think the team will change because of missing the playoffs, I just really don't believe that. Nothing, no heads, everybody says heads will roll, all that heads need to roll. Heads do need to roll, but I don't think that where we're at with this team, like the fact that they're even coming this close, the only time heads would roll if we were just like fully out of it at this point, like if we were like the Orioles or something, which would never happen because this team can't be that. It's just like there's no chance that anything changes. I think if anything changes this offseason, it's going to be very minimal.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
And they just hired a new pitching coach, so I'm not going to change that pitching coach. Matt Blake's been, I don't really care. I'm not going to, I don't know.
I think, he's been good enough. He's not the problem.
He hasn't pissed me off like Larry Rothschild has. He just,
yeah.
I don't even know. I don't even know if ever anybody was really judging him based on his performance. I think he just looked like that guy from Monsters, Inc.
Yeah.
That Mike Wazowski. So, I don't know. I just don't think anything is going to change. So, and we didn't even talk about this, too. The Yankees got booed, or Garrett Cole specifically got booed.
Ridiculous.
I disagree with that.
Really?
Because it's not about Cole. They weren't booing Cole. Yes, Cole was pitching, but to get to the point of booing, that's a lot of pent up the whole season long, and they've booed people this season. They booed Stanton before, which that was earlier in the season, and that was about Stanton. That was about Stanton.
Yes, but they booed Stanton because he was consistently bad.
That was about Stanton. At this point, September 19th or 18th, whatever day it was, that was not about Cole. Cole happened to be on the mound that day.
I don't know.
They're not going to all right, the people
How do you know that,
booing,
though?
the people that are booing, because I'll speak for them too, because I feel the same way. Like, I wouldn't have booed, but it's so warranted because the way that he's booing the team. He was out there that day. He ended up giving up 7 runs. That sucks. He's supposed to be the stopper. That's shitty. It's not all on him. He can't be the stopper every time. He's human. People make mistakes. We can't just lose 4 games and every 5th day expect him to just be the stopper. But the fact that he was out there that day, he ended up being in the crosshairs after the team had let up 11 runs in back-to-back games against the Guardians. And
I don't know. I think
it was a built-up thing, and I think here's my thing. If it wasn't directly about Cole, if I'm having a conversation with the people that booed him, if they're not booing him because of just Cole, if they're booing the team out of a pent-up, cherry on. Cole was the cherry on top to this shitty season. We're gonna boo you guys for giving up 22 runs in 2 days to the Indians. That I can get behind. That's warranted. If it's about Cole, who's having still quite possibly, I don't know if anymore after that game. I think it depends on the way you look at it and the way he finishes it out for the Cy Young race. But if you're booing Garrett Cole because of that one start, that's ridiculous. But I think the boos are warranted because of the team and the way they've been performing this year. So
yeah, I agree. But I also think that the fans of the game were booing Garrett Cole because they were booing as he was coming out of the game, and that only really happens if they're going directly at the player.
And those people are ridiculous because
that's what I'm saying.
He's having a Cy Young year, and like we mentioned before on the podcast, we haven't had a Cy Young on the Yankees since
I don't even know.
I forget, but it was a very long time ago. I think it was like Ron Guidry. I think it was Ron Guidry. So that's a long time. Long time ago. That's when mustaches were the handlebar mustache was in style. Yeah. So I don't know. I think the booing is warranted, but I don't think it was directed at Cole. So that's where I stand on that. But I don't know. Do you want to get into hot or not?
Yeah.
So, contrary to popular belief, there are some people that are doing pretty hot, and we talked about, on the last episode we talked about people historically who get hot around September, October. And those people were guys like Chapman, guys like Gio was very hot last year. Hopefully he hasn't really come alive right now, but hopefully he does. I think he had a hit today, but we need a lot more than just a hit. Judge, not so much in September last year, but he's always a clutch playoff player. DJ actually was one of the hottest last year. Obviously, he batted 364 last year, but it was something interesting that I wanted to point out. Like, who can we really rely on? Who tends to do this? Albeit last year was a small sample size, but September, October is not. It's the same sample size. It's just different season. But who's heating up right now? It's pretty fucking important, and we need everybody to heat up. But who's doing it right now? So. First up for the hots, let me get the hot sound queued up. I actually have it this time. All right, leading off for the hots, Joey Gallo the last 14 days, 205 WRC plus 281 batting average, still 37.8 K percentage, 6 homers, a 1.2 OPS.
I'm buying.
You buying that?
I'm buying it.
Aroldis Chapman, like I said, last 30 days, 10 innings pitched, 11 innings pitched now after tonight. I don't know how many Ks he had tonight, so I'll add whatever. It's 18 plus however many he had tonight. 3 runs allowed, no runs still, and 2.7 ERA with 4 saves.
I'm also gonna buy that, and I'll go into detail after.
That's it. Here's the thing: we need that. We need him.
Those are 2 big names.
I mean, we got Joey Gallo to make it happen this year.
I mean, to be fair, I was never truly worried about Gallo. Like, yes, he had a terrible couple of games, but I also think that, like, you know, obviously when he does bad, it's a little bit more heightened because of that 38% K percentage, and that was probably higher during his.
Yeah, that was closer to like 50.
Yeah, it was probably like 50 or something when he was going through that slump. So his like, you know, bad play is always heightened, but we talked about it before. Like, the guy is still a great player. He still gets on base a lot, and you know, he has that all-star caliber mindset in him, and I do believe that he's going to get hot at the right time, which he is, and hopefully that continues. So,
one more thing before we continue talking about that, I forgot to mention one thing too about the booing. I know it's weird to go back to this right now again,
for it.
But another reason why it's absolutely warranted is when I looked back at the over-under win totals for this season, and the over-under win total, we were the highest over-under win total at 95.5 for the AL, and we had the best odds to win the World Series from the AL. We had 95.5. We have 84 right now for the wins. We're going to obviously fall short of that by a lot. We have 11 games left, so it's fairly obvious. I think we've already we're mathematically under the 95.5. And plus 550 to win the World Series. That's ridiculous. So that's also another reason why this team is warranted of boos. We were the odds-on favorite to win the World Series from the American League. So, sorry for going back to that, but I mean, Aroldis Chapman and Joey Gallo, those are 2 guys that we absolutely fucking need to be in contention this year. And other people that are hot right now, like Brett Gardner's actually been hot. We talked about him last time, so I didn't want to bring him up again, but he's still been doing it. Maybe he plays himself into a role in the outfield. I personally hope he doesn't, but
yeah.
He'll be good off the bench in defensive replacements. We have to make the fucking playoffs, first of all, but I guess we'll just talk hypothetical if we actually will make the playoffs. But, I mean, Joey Gallo, I'm going to buy that too, because this is the type of player he is. And this is actually a pretty amazing sample. Not sample, it's 2 weeks, but this is a pretty good mix of stats that we get out of this, because the K percentage is still high, and we know we're going to get that. The batting average is a little high. Obviously, it's 2 weeks, but like, his batting average is always going to be lower, but he's going to hit for a ton of power, and the power is coming alive. And that's all we wanted out of Joey Gallo. He's going to play good defense. He's going to have a damn good arm, and he's going to hit home runs. And that's what we want out of him. He's going to walk a lot, and he's going to strike out a lot. And he's still, even during his hot streak, he's still striking out a ton, which is fine, because that's what we signed up for.
Yeah. And going back to like the whole like star power thing, like we pay for these guys to be stars, right? We're going for the big name because they can show up in the big moments, and I feel like that's really why we got them. You know, obviously we got them to get to this point and hopefully make the playoffs, but we really got them to shine in the playoffs because they're the big names that are going to make the big plays.
Yeah, and we mentioned this too about the Athletics as well.
I was just about to say that, yeah.
They went out and went after the guy that I wanted on the team, and they got Starlin Marte, and they gave up Jesus Luzardo for it. So if they miss the playoffs, it'll be all for nothing. And we were saying that we were throwing stones from a glass house, because at that time we were doing a 13-game win streak, and I was like, oh, you know, if they don't make the playoffs, it's all for nothing. And now here we are, and we bought even more than they did. We didn't give up as much, I don't think, but, you know, that's not for me to decide, because in the future we'll find out if we give up a ton, because I didn't really, you know, who knows.
Not really knew the prospects that well.
Luzardo was a bigger name, a more MLB-ready name at the time. So, I mean, it's just, we could be looking at this, like we said before. I made that video back in the day before the deadline saying like I really would like Gallo. A lot of people weren't. That was at the time when not a lot of people wanted Gallo because it's more of the same, and I understood that, but I saw the upside in having a guy like Gallo, lefty bat, power, short porch, all that, which is obvious. Everybody saw that, and I was like, if we do get him, we could be looking at this at the end of this year or even sooner if we don't make the playoffs. But specifically, I was saying at the end of this year, could be looking at this like that was a dumb move. And it very well could be. But I still think it's absolutely worth it. And if I could go back, I still think I would go out and do it because Marte was off the board at that time. And we do they do like lefties. So I'm marking it as a seal of approval still right now. Yeah. But I mean, that all could change if we miss the playoffs because then we just absolutely bought up everybody to just miss. And now we have Rizzo, who's a rental, and he's probably going to walk because that whole situation with him and Voit and just like what they're going to do with them is not going anywhere. And one more thing on that too, because we mentioned it before, now that we're not playing any more NL teams, we said Voit better not fucking get benched ever again. He gets benched again. So, and he's one of the hotter hitters right now. In win or go home, you have to backs against the wall. You have to win every single day, and he still gets benched because apparently they want a baby Sten who's been just fine.
It's just so I can't talk about it but it's just so frustrating how Stan needs to be able to play 3 games in a row. He has to.
Especially when we need to win every single night.
But I'm talking about the bare minimum. He needs to be able to play the field 3 games in a row because we're in a 7-game series and there's 3 games back to back to back. He has to fucking play those games. We're not taking rest days and scheduled off days in a playoff series. Stan needs to be in the outfield for 3 days in a row, and he hasn't done that yet. And in order for him to be in order for Luke Voit to be playing, Stan needs to be in the field. And I'm honestly so surprised, and hats off to Voit for continuing to always get the big hit and continue to play well even when he's been playing inconsistently. It's crazy.
Speaking of Voit, did you see that quote that he had?
Yeah, it's from Ted Lasso.
Oh, is it from Ted Lasso?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then that makes a little more sense because I was going to open the show with that, honestly. I actually am about to watch Ted Lasso. So
yeah, good show.
I've been rewatching the Marvel movies, and as you can tell, I was watching the Spider-Man movies, getting in preparation for the new MCU movies to come out. We're big Marvel fans here. We have a Captain America shield on the fucking wall. So that's pretty cool, not to toot my own horn, but I am going to get to Ted Lasso. But I was going to open the show with his quote. He said, "We've got to be goldfish and have a 10-second memory. Tomorrow's a big game."
Yeah. And
I was before tonight, after winning tonight, I was going to be like, this is where we're at. This is the quotes we're getting. But I didn't know it was from Ted Lasso. Yeah. So
is that worse or is that better? I don't know. Is he quoting a movie in a press conference?
I think that's a lot cooler.
Really?
That Void is up to date in pop culture, and I think that is that's a negative towards Rizzo. That's even more so of a reason why Void should not be benched, I think.
I mean, I'm just blown away by the fact that he's always doing something good when he's playing,
even if it's a quote,
or he's getting a home run and he's not playing consistently.
So before we get into the knots, I figure this is probably a good time to get into a little bit of an injury update. I want to do this at the top of the show, but as everybody knows by this point, and if you don't, here you are. Luis Severino was reinstated today from Tommy John / groin / shoulder. It's been a bunch of different things for Sevy, and he was reinstated today. What are your expectations? Before I move on to the rest of the injury updates, because there's a bunch more, what are your expectations for Sevy? Because tonight, I was like, it was 4-3. Jolie Rodriguez was in, and you were especially pissed off at the fact with that, you put in him to get the lefty out. He doesn't get the lefty out, and then you're kind of fucked now because some righty was up, and now you got Jolie Rodriguez up, and Nick Solak was up, and he's a lot better against lefties, which most righties are. And you were pissed off about that, and I was saying. And I knew the answer to this was I also didn't want to see Sevy in that situation, but I also did. Because And here's my thing about a lot of these guys too, like with Tyone, Lasagna, Domingo, all those guys are, I'm going to give updates on those as well, but they're on their way back. And my thought process on that, like for example, Tyone is apparently going to get another rehab start and then he's going to be put in or something like that.
Yep.
That's what they say. Those outs that you're getting in Scranton are worth nothing to us, especially when we have 11 games. Him getting a rehab start, wherever he's at in his progression, however much he's going to throw in that rehab start, we could use those innings right here, right now. So I don't think him going out to do a rehab start, and it's not like you're, rushing him back at all. You're still throwing those innings. Your body is doing the same exact thing. It's just you would give him the rehab start because he technically wouldn't be ready and he wouldn't be throwing as good as he would be when he knocks off some rust. He hasn't been out for that long, and we could use the fucking outs. The next best alternative is Andrew fucking Heaney, which I honestly shouldn't have mentioned on the show. We've shunned him. Yeah. So, that's what I mean. Like, those outs we need those outs. Those outs in Scranton are useless.
What was J-Mo's injury again? I honestly forget.
J-Mo's injury was a right ankle tendon partial tear.
Yeah, I don't know.
Doesn't sound good. But
it doesn't sound good,
back.
But it's like, it's not his arm. It's not his, shoulder or whatever. It's not like a huge. I mean, obviously, the ankle's important. I'm not gonna say the ankle's not important, but
it's a tendon.
Yeah, it's not.
I feel like this is gonna be one of those injuries that after the season comes around, if he does come back and he starts pitching, it's gonna be one of the ones at the end of the season where it's like, yeah, actually, my leg was ripped in half.
Yeah,
like Voit after the season, we all knew Voit was dealing with foot stuff. But we found out.
Cole had the hamstring thing.
Yeah, we found out. It's one of those things where you find out after that they were actually dealing with half their body was dead.
Yeah, I mean, especially when our starting pitching is so slim, and we're facing the Rangers right now, and it's I don't know how serious the ankle injury was, but it is your ankle, it's not your shoulder or your arm or something like that. I kind of see what you're saying, where we should be throwing him just throwing him now, having his, I guess, quote-unquote rehab start, just say fuck it and have him put the things up here, because we're running out of time in terms of
11 games.
Yeah.
We have one start of him left.
Yeah.
Because if he does a rehab start, that means he has to wait an extra 5 days after that. That means he has one start. Maybe we could squeeze 2 in if we have him start his rehab start just in the majors. Because here's the thing. You're saying, it's not that serious of it's a serious injury, but, rushing him back, all that stuff. If he's healthy enough to make a rehab start, he's healthy enough to make a regular start. They're just worried about the performance, which the alternatives that we have are not good. So
I think here's the thing. I think this is a classic scenario of what we've been seeing all year, which is we're planning for tomorrow and we're planning for tomorrow instead of trying to win today. So what I mean by that is...
No, I know what you mean by that.
Yeah. So,
you don't want to risk his injury for the future when...
No, I'm talking even more short-term than that.
For the playoffs?
Yeah, they're thinking they're automatically going to make the playoffs, so they're wanting him to have a rehab start so that... The rehab start now, so then he can have one more start during the regular season, and then hopefully by that time he'll be good for the playoffs. So they're planning ahead, but... they're kind of getting blinded by the fact that they're planning ahead, which may shoot them in the foot by not making the playoffs whatsoever. Yeah, and I think they've been doing that all year. They've always been resting bullpen guys or resting players in general the entire year, planning for the next day instead of trying to win the day of. And I think that's just been an ongoing issue.
Yeah, that's nothing new. But if that's what they're doing right here with him, then there's literally 11 games left.
Yeah.
I mean, same goes with the rest of the injury updates. Domingo was dealing with the right shoulder strain. Boone said we could welcome him back off the injury list within the next few days. I am very excited for Domingo has been. I mean, he's shown flashes this season of flirting with no hitters, and he's been great. And he's been good.
What was that stat the other day we were talking about? He has most innings pitched behind Cole.
Yeah, he's
Montgomery
top
or something.
4 in innings pitched for the Yankees this year.
Yeah, top 3
and
or 4.
What we need right now is innings. The perfect example tonight, when I was bringing up that conversation about potentially wanting to see Sevy come in the game, I was saying that because of the alternatives we have. Like, yeah, Sevy needs to be worked back, and I know in reality that would be a bad time to bring him in. It's almost like, bringing in a guy like a young guy into a playoff game for the first time, like starting Luis Heel in a wild card would be a bad situation.
Yeah.
But when you don't have a lot of alternatives, you're kind of you don't have a choice. And we're up 1 run, and it was the 8th inning. Joely Rodriguez was in, and what happens if he, like, yeah, maybe you just bring in Chapman early that's in that situation. He tries to get like a 1.5 inning save, but like I was flirting with the idea of bringing him in because we had already used Chad Green, we had already used Clay Holmes, we had already used Joely Rodriguez at that point, we already used we've used so many people at that point already. So like that just goes back to the main point I was saying before about like any innings. We need innings. We don't have a choice. We have such a thin pitching staff at this point, and I actually have a few stats about the pitching staff as well that I wanted to bring up. I was going to bring it up in the knots, but might as well just bring it up in the hots, because in the last 30 days, the Yankees pitching staff, in the last month, 30 days last month, that's the same thing.
Give or take.
They're bottom 3 in the league in ERA, bottom 3 in the league in bottom 3rd, I should say, in ERA, bottom 3rd in FIP, the 4th most homers allowed with 43, only behind Baltimore, Washington, and Texas. 4th most walks allowed at 102, only behind Washington, Kansas City, and the Cubs. They've been atrocious in the last 30 days. And the last 30 days, mind you, are, when you're trying to get a playoff spot and your lives are on the line, like in the last 30 days, we've been pretty much just tied with everybody for the most part. I think we were coming off, I don't know if it was coming off that 13-game win streak, whatever. But for the majority of the 30 days, we were in must-win territory. And the pitching has been atrocious. And that's not going to cut it, especially when when you look at the offense hasn't been the main issue. But when you look at it, they've had the 4th worst K percentage in the league at 25%. That's obvious. That's just by design what's going to happen with this team. But they've also had a 100 WRC plus, which is league average, obviously. And they're league average in most things offensively, which, obviously that's not a glaring issue when you hear the other stuff. But, when your offense is league average and your pitching is bottom 3rd, if not 4th worst in most categories, that's just not going to cut it. So this all ties back to my theory of like just bringing guys up, fuck rehab starts. If they're healthy enough for that, they're healthy enough to pitch right now. We don't have alternatives. Clearly, the people that are pitching right now are among the worst in the league. You don't want to be in company with Baltimore, Washington, and Texas.
In any conversation.
That's the people that have given up more home runs than us.
Yeah, it's like, would you rather a fully healthy Andrew Heaney start or a semi-healthy JMO start?
That was exactly what I was going to say. I said that to you before.
Yeah.
I was saying, would you rather have, I don't think I was saying Tyone, but Tyone works too. I was saying, would you rather Luis Severino come in this situation or Andrew Heaney come in this situation?
Yeah.
And I would rather take my fucking chances with the guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years versus the guy that I've seen pitch too many times in the last whatever amount of time. He should not pitch for the next fucking ever. So I'd rather take and that's the alternative. He pitches all the time.
He pitches way too much.
So that's where I stand on that.
But going back to the full circle with what we expect out of Sevy for the remainder of the season, I don't know. I feel like the guy hasn't pitched in 2 years. Obviously, we know what Sevy can do, and listen, if he can be even remotely close to what we like know he can be, and at the bare minimum be a solid bullpen arm for the remainder of the season and hopefully into the playoffs. I mean, that's amazing considering what the stats you just said. Like that, adding him into the bullpen and just being a little bit of what what we remember him as. That's massive.
He was touching 95 too. Like
Yeah.
I don't have super high expectations.
I don't
for
either.
him,
I don't either.
But like, there's not a reason why you should just like poo it and just be like he's not going to be good.
Yeah, but he's also like he's a raw talent. Like he can come back and
before he got re-injured, when he was on his way back like midway through this season, he was looking really good. So yeah, I know another injury has came and went since then. So you never really know, and he could very well get hurt again. Like he said he feels good. He's touching 95. I don't think there's any reason why he can't be good.
Yeah,
I don't think he's gonna go very deep into games, but if it means that Andrew Heaney won't pitch, I'm all for it. So, and I think that's like legitimately what it means.
Yep. And I think in a perfect world, we score a bunch of runs early tomorrow or next day, and he comes in and throws a few innings against a struggling Rangers team.
Yeah,
with a lead. That'd be ideal. I think that's a great way to get his arm warm, get him back into it, and then hopefully, he pitches either today. Sorry, if he pitches the second game or the third game against the Rangers, then we have an off day, and then we play the Red Sox. Like, I think he needs to get a rep in, at least 1 or 2 innings in before we go into Red Sox series, if we wanted to have him throw that series.
I have a question for you.
Talk to me, Goose.
So, up 1 run, crunch time situation, just like tonight. Let's say we're playing Toronto in the coming days, or the Rays or the Red Sox, whatever it may be. Would you rather, in a situation, have a rusty Luis Severino come out for the first time, or Luis Heel out of the bullpen there? A kid who's been pitching for a large part of this season and has looked great.
It's a tough question.
But he's a rookie and he's never done it. Let's actually put more pressure on. Let's put it in the playoffs. Wild card. Up 1, 7th inning. Pitcher didn't go. Garrett Cole got yanked in the 4th inning. We've been doing a bullpen day. There's runners on first and second. There's 1 out. Who you want to bring in, Luis Severino or Luis Heel?
It's so tough because the reason I'm hesitant to bring in I'm gonna fuck up his name. Heel. I just want to say Gil. Luis Hill. Like, if the only reason I'm hesitant to bring him in is because he walks a lot of people.
You don't know what you're gonna get out of Sevy, though.
I know, but
I know
he's gonna walk a lot of people.
Of what Sevy will bring to the table this season, because he should get some reps in before that. But for the purposes of this, right now, I want to say, like, let's say the wild card was tomorrow. We made it. Hooray! let's say that's happening tomorrow. New York City. Let's say that's happening tomorrow. 3, 2, 1. Who you taking?
I'm gonna take Luis Hill.
I think I would take Hill too.
But
Granted,
it's a risk though because of the walks. The walks are that's like the biggest downfall to his game right now.
I think Sevy could also have the walks too, being a rusty guy who hasn't pitched in 2 years.
Sevy could have nothing. We don't
exactly.
know.
So, I mean, that's my main point by that is Heel's built up.
Also, his stuff is disgusting. Like, he has the stuff. He just is a little bit inaccurate from time to time.
Yeah. To round out the injury updates, like I said, Sevy has returned. Tyone will be returning soon. Lasagna, right rotator cuff strain. Hopes to throw a bullpen sometime during the Boston series, and he has been in a throwing program, and maybe they say Toronto or the Tampa series. So basically, hopefully there's something that matters by that point. Hopefully he's pitching in meaningful games, and if we don't sweep the Rangers, it may be. I mean, even if we don't sweep the Rangers, this is the thing that keeps roping me back in, is that like if we there's still, we're playing head to head against these teams that we're competing with. So like, we could limp right into the playoffs.
It's what's gonna happen. We're gonna have essentially every series going forward is gonna be a playoff game. Like,
I would like to build up a buffer, games. Like I said, but even if we don't sweep the Rangers, I still think we can still.
Yes, I mean, we still can, because we play the Blue Jays and the Red Sox, which are literally a direct competition. Yeah. If we, in theory, we could sweep both of those teams, which will never happen. But
which they haven't done all year. They're like 6-10 against. I think they're 6-10 against the Blue Jays, and they're 6-10 against the Red Sox.
Yeah.
We're probably the same against the Rays. But just the two teams we're competing directly against, we're 6-10 against.
It's just going to be a bunch of playoff games.
You can't ask them to sweep that. They haven't.
You can't, but you need to win the series. Like, if you don't win the series, you're not making the playoffs. Like, that's literally going to come down to, like, I truly believe that we're probably going to be tied once again going into those series. And that's it. That's going to be the games in the series against the playoffs.
Yeah.
That's what it's
and
going
then
to be.
Domingo is doing the right shoulder strain. He said he's coming back probably in the next couple of days. So that is it for the injury updates. I mean, this is all pitching too, so that helps an obvious need, like I mentioned before. For the knots, I had a couple for the knots. I really don't even feel like doing the knots because one of them was Garrett Cole, 1-2 in his last 3 games. Last start versus Cleveland, 5.2, 10 hits, 7 earned. I don't want to do the full knots because I kind of already gave you a taste of it. One of the knots was the Yankees pitching in the last 30 days. But I do want to talk about Cole because, he's human and he can have off days off starts like this. But, the expectation right now is that, especially when the pitching staff has been that bad, he's the only guy that's been pitching well this year. He's in the running for the Cy Young. And everybody was just under the assumption that, if we make the wild card, we'll just blow past whatever team we play because we have Garrett Cole. This just showed that that's not a bulletproof plan. He can get knocked around by the Indians. He gave up 7 runs, 10 hits. He can get knocked around by the Indians. He's been knocked around by other teams before. He's just a damn good pitcher, and we know that he's somebody who gets fucking psyched up for a game, and I have no doubt that, if I was a betting man, I would put money on Cole to be good that game. But seeing this as recently as 2 days ago shows you that you can't just, it's not a guarantee that Garrett Cole is just going to be, every Yankee fan, including myself, has been just operating under the assumption that we're just going to, if we make the playoffs, assuming we make the playoffs, we'll be fine because we have Garrett Cole.
Yeah, and it's not a good game plan.
So, for this hot or not purpose, obviously I think I'm going to sell the Garrett Cole. I'm not worried about Garrett Cole entirely because of this, but it does show to me that he's not bulletproof. And, one game wild card situation, anything can happen. And you're playing elevated competition. You're not playing the fucking Guardian Indians. You're playing top tier talent that's going to be either the Red Sox or the Blue Jays or the Athletics if they decide to come in. That's not what you want to see, especially against teams that have had success against him in the past.
The only reason I'm worried is if his hamstring injury is something a little more serious, and that's what's causing him to not pitch well. Because that was his first outing since he got pulled early from his last start, the 2 starts ago. So
yeah,
I don't know if it's an injury, and we'll find out. Hopefully it's not, but
see, that's going to be another one of those things that's just after the year,
torn hamstring.
He actually was dealing with a partially torn hamstring.
Yeah, at the end of the year.
You were just doing it because if he goes down, this season's actually over.
Yeah,
because we rely on him to stop the bleeding out every 5 days. We go on a 4-game losing streak, and for the most part, he usually gets a dub.
Yeah,
and then we lose another 4, and then in situations that's happened before, but I don't know. I just want to bring that up because of the wild card talk, and people just always say oh, we're fine, but we're not fine whatsoever. Yeah. So do you want to get into, we asked you guys for the rounding thirds and we didn't do them obviously last episode. I feel bad because we put up the story and we asked you guys for the rounding thirds and we just didn't do the episode. So we are doing them this time. You guys sent in some good ones, so let me pull them up. First one comes to us from Jose Fini. He said, Sevy and Herman are going to give us the spark we need to finish 5 games out of the wild card. To finish 5 games out of the wild card. What? I'm going to go with the spark we need part, and I think that's entirely possible. We talked about that a bunch. I think Herman specifically, I think a lot of people are focused on the Sevy thing coming back, but I think Herman, like I said before, he's been good this year. He's been consistent and he's been eating innings, and he, like I said before, takes away innings from guys like Heaney. So if you can take away innings from guys like Heaney and I don't have to see him pitch, and you're a guy who, maybe will go to the bullpen just like Sevy.
Yep.
We have a bunch of guys in the bullpen now that can be like, you're a bullpen guy, yeah, but you're like, you may not be going starter distance because you're not stretched out to that point, but you can go 2, 3. Like, we have flexible bullpen arms at this point if that is what we do. Like, Tyone might move to the bullpen. He's gonna go probably 2, 3, and then they'll build him up the further we go into the playoffs if we do. But like, we have a lot of guys who can go like relatively large distances as bullpen arms, and that's kind of how the playoffs are anyway. We're doing it based on need because they're hurt, but that's usually what you would do with starters anyway. So in a way, they're kind of doing the same thing. But yeah, I agree with Jose here. I mean, Sevy and Herman are absolutely gonna help us. I mean, I hope Tyone also is in that mix too, and they just bring them all up and just get innings, like I said, in the majors. But
I mean, like, again, we talked about how terrible the pitching has been, and I think regardless of who it's going to be, I think that a pitcher is going to be the spark that we need to turn the whole thing around and hopefully, help us get through the playoffs. And if it's a good chance, it's going to be one of those guys. So
next question comes to us from Dilly Fran TTM. Anthony Volpe starts at shortstop, starts for late 2020 at shortstop for the Yankees because we fucking suck. 2022. Sorry, I didn't read that whatsoever. Anthony Volpe starts at shortstop for late 2022 because we fucking suck.
I don't know if we're gonna see him next year. I mean, he'll probably like, I feel like my prediction is he'll probably end the year in AAA.
I mean, yeah, he's still in like low A.
He's still in low A right now. I mean, he's killing it, but
yeah, there's a long way to go.
There's a long way for him to go, and
I don't want to talk about the offseason just yet. We're not dead yet, and there's also, if we're gonna talk about shortstops, there's that big class that everybody keeps talking about. That it's a very big potential to get guys like, I don't want Correa, but he's available. He's having a great year. Seager, all these guys. Story.
I mean, it's a very big conversation because
that's for another time.
Yeah, we got some for time because we also drafted a bunch of shortstops and we have Volpe, so like
the jury's out. Velasquez is one of the ones too. The jury's out for shortstop. Is definitely not a solidified position. To answer the question for now, we'll just say it's not. It's definitely a question.
There's a lot of moving parts to it.
There's something that could. Gleyber doesn't hold that position. It's not like we come into every year for the past couple of years and be like, yeah, it's Gleyber's position, or him at second base too. Like, Gleyber's proven that he's not the guy he was before, so it's not set in stone. Marty Rule, our friend, said, I'd rather have Murph behind the plate than Gary Sanchez.
Agreed.
I wholeheartedly agree. Gary's looked like Gary's just terrible. A fucking bum behind the plate. So I agree. He did have the home run today, though. So
whatever. Every time we record,
it's always Gary just doesn't make the tag at home. He drops a pop up to him. He just like looks like a fucking idiot. Doesn't frame things. Ball gets by him, but then he hits a home run. So
that's his thing. It's like he does terrible, and then he hits a home run, and everyone forgets. And then it's another thing where if he hits a home run early on, his job's done for the whole game, and then he'll just shit the bed the rest of the game because he did the one thing good.
Next one comes to us from Ryan Welch, 21. Heads must roll at the end of the season, but Hal's too gutless to do anything. I couldn't have said it any better myself. As a matter of fact, I did say that before. Heads should roll I guess that's what he said. Heads must roll.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything.
Nope.
Even if we miss the playoffs, he's not going to fucking do anything. That's why anybody who thinks that we should miss the playoffs to prove a point, you're just going to be really upset when this time comes around, or the season comes around next year, because not only did we miss the playoffs, but then like the reason why you want to miss the playoffs is so that heads will roll, and they don't roll, and now you're just like, now we just did nothing in the playoffs for no reason.
It's like they obviously know what's going on, if we miss the playoffs, they're not gonna be like, oh, huh.
That's what you guys.
That's
were
what you guys were
about.
talking about this whole time. Like, yeah, obviously it would be a big shot. It would be like a big like letdown, but I don't think it would change their viewpoint because they've been watching the same team we've been watching the whole season, and this is their literal job to make the team better. We just talk about it, so they have to know what's going on.
And Aiden Bogursky says Nasty Nestor should just pitch every game for the rest of the season, and I agree.
If it was softball, sure, I'd love to.
Nasty Nestor, yeah, because they pitch every fucking day.
There's a one pitcher, basically.
There's like one pitcher, and they actually just pitch every day.
Yeah, unless they like don't have their stuff and they put another pitcher in. But
Actually, we got one more too. B. Gagner said Tyler Wade is the starting shortstop come playoffs.
well, no, because Urshela's there now. But I wouldn't. Honestly, I wouldn't. I'm not
Would you
upset
rather
anymore.
keep Urshela at short and then put Odor at third? Remember Miggy?
Yeah, R.I.P.
I don't know what happened to him.
He got really hurt.
Oh. I don't know. I mean, I'm not gonna just dismiss the Tyler Wade thing because he's actually been decent. He's been bad in the last.
The game's more exciting
weeks.
when he's
He's still
when
batting
playing.
270 this year with a 93 OPS plus.
And whenever he gets on base, he steals 2 bases, and then like it's always fucking exciting.
I mean, the way this whole team's been playing, the jury's out. Like it's not a preposterous thing. If you told me that at the beginning of the year that Tyler Wade could be the shortstop in the playoffs, yeah, I'd be like, you're an idiot. But it's at this point, I just want to make the playoffs. And if he ends up being on that roster, he's going to be a big part of it. And
I mean, Odor and Wade on the bench are 2 guys on the bench that I really enjoy. So,
yeah,
they're very good bench guys who can both start.
Yep. I think that's it for me. I just really hope we make the playoffs because I just can't imagine a world where we're sitting like I won't even like after the Yankees get eliminated from the playoffs. I love baseball. I still watch, but like I just genuinely care so much less. Actually, a couple of years ago when the Washington Nationals won the World Series, I like didn't even watch. I like had it on, but I wasn't. I didn't care at all. So like the playoffs is no fun when the Yankees aren't in it, and I just hope they're in it. So to those people who think that it'd be better if we don't make the playoffs, fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't invest all my time and energy for 150 games to then stop caring for the last 12 games and then hope we miss the playoffs. Like, if you're a fan for the whole season, stick it out. You know, we are so far from being eliminated. We're literally tied for the wild card, and we're playing all the competition the last 2 series of the game of the season.
We got some fun baseball ahead of us.
Like,
if you're not
excited for this,
fucking play like the worst
either
team
way,
ever.
like, if you're not excited for this, like it's going to be 2 full-on playoff series to figure out who's going to be in the playoffs. Like I don't remember the last time that we actually had that much excitement. Obviously. I would love to be in the rated
for a while.
Yeah, I'd love to be in the rated position where we can just chill out for the rest of the season. That'd be great. But honestly,
I would argue no.
It's pretty exciting. We'll see what happens. Like I'm excited to watch a bunch of one playoff games. Like it's gonna be really exciting. I can't remember last time where we've had this much tension and this much deciding factor games the last few days of the season. I can't remember.
I got tickets to the Saturday. I know didn't Chandler say he was going to come down for that?
For the Rays one?
Yeah, I got tickets for Saturday. I just hope that game means something because that's after the Red Sox and after the Orioles. Not Orioles.
That's last
after
6
Toronto.
Years. Yeah.
So I just hope those games mean something.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to watch
and I'm pretty sure one of them, I think it's the Blue Jays, could be the Red Sox. I'm getting sleepy here. But one of them plays the Orioles. So we need
the Red Sox play the Orioles.
Yeah, so
yeah,
that's fun. Do you think we're gonna have a game 163? That'd be so fucking nerve wracking. Cause then what? Because that's like, I don't want to say like, oh, don't get ahead of yourself. That's not getting ahead of ourselves. That's entirely possible the way it's sitting right now. We're a half game up. We're half game back.
I don't think it will happen.
I think it could.
I don't think. Here's why I don't think so, because we're playing the direct. We're playing the competition at the end of the season, so I feel like it's gonna go
I don't
one way or
think
the
that
other.
changes anything.
Well, yeah, it does,
You're
because
trying to do a lot of math in your head right now, and
I am.
trust me, there's different scenarios that
I know there is, but I'm looking at it like as
it could happen. Just
front
enough of
face.
this. It could absolutely happen, and if it does happen, that'd be really fucking exciting. Because not only are you saying like all these playoff series that we're getting an extra one, but then what the fuck do we do? Garrett Cole throws that day. Then you have a wild card who throws game 2.
Nasty Nestor.
Honestly, I think it is.
I know. That's not a joke.
I don't think it's Kluber. Kluber looked good in his last start, but
He's streaky.
would you throw Kluber in a 1-game wild card?
Cortez has been the most consistently good pitcher. He's been consistent for. I mean, he had the one game where
it'd be between him and Montgomery.
even in the game that Nestor didn't do well, he had 11 Ks.
I think I would give.
That's ridiculous.
I think I would give the nod to. I would give the nod to Nestor. I was trying to talk myself into Montgomery, but I think the thing that makes me not pick Montgomery is because for whatever reason, whenever he pitches, they don't score runs. So
yep, that's another thing.
So we would lose 1-0.
Yeah, basically.
That's not. Yeah, that would be how it goes down. So that's an entirely real possibility. We could absolutely have a game 163, and that would fuck us.
It's gonna be fun. I'm excited and nervous, and probably gonna have a couple of aneurysms. But
I mean, the game 163 happened recently. That was when didn't the Brewers play the Rockies? That was like a couple years ago.
Brewers and Rockies, that had been a while ago. It was the Rockies.
Like 2 days. That was like not 2 days. That was like 2 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. It happened. It happened.
That.
It happened in the NL West. In NL. It was the Cubs and the Brewers. I don't know what's happening to me right now, but it happened recently. It happened 2 years ago. I'll look it up after we sign off. You guys are probably looking it up as I'm talking about it right now. But as always, appreciate you guys for listening. Appreciate you making it all the way. It's the end of the season now, so we just love you guys for doing the season with us, and hopefully we make the playoffs and we can have some playoff episodes. If you're listening to us, it's your first season listening to us, we like to do an episode after every single game of the playoffs, just to give a little quick.
It's exciting times.
It's exciting. So like right after that, we like to do like a 20-minute plus. It usually ends up being more than that because we just keep talking. But if we make the playoffs, we will record an episode after every single game until we either get eliminated or win the fucking World Series. And if we win the World Series, Chandler wants to go to Vegas. So
I will already be there.
Okay. So thank you guys for tuning in. We love you guys. And if you want to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, we'd appreciate that. Subscribe to the Bronx Pinstripes YouTube, do all that jazz. Follow us on social media at the 161 Boys, Twitter, Instagram, and yeah. Let's
do that thing.
Let's watch some fucking baseball, huh? Let's score some runs.
That'd be a good place to start.